Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Curtain with the Sound on Stage. I'm Greg Heilman, and today I'm joined by Brookelyne Peterson, who is
Hi.
a recent transplant to the area, you could say, coming from Utah. She's currently starring in Almost, Maine at Tacoma Little Theatre. Previously that, she was in A Doll's House Part 2, also at Tacoma Little Theatre. Both excellent performances, which we'll talk about those in a little bit. First of all, Brookelyne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. I'm so excited to be here.
So yeah, so you're recent to the area. From you tell me a little bit about what brought you to to the area, and a little bit about what you because you're from Utah, right?
Yes, yeah. I moved here from Utah of September of 2023. I finished my degree in theater in August of 2023. And my best friend Sage lived here, and I wanted to move so bad, and I wanted opportunities, and I wanted new things, and a new community to join. And so she was like, "Hey, come up here. The theater community is pretty wonderful." And I was like, "Okay." And so I joined her, and I found a job at Lakewood Playhouse and applied for their position, and they hired me in like a week span of me moving here, and it was kind of perfect, and the cards were where they needed to be, and I moved here, and I've been here ever since.
And you are is a box office and company manager at Lakewood? That's your
Yes,
title?
I am. Yeah.
What does that entail exactly?
So originally it was just box office manager. And then as I started to progress in the role and as things started to like coming, like we're transitioning and we're doing shows and we're getting productions up, they were like, you should you should be doing like these kind of things. So it's like taking care of the actors, making sure they all need what they need, getting contracts ready for them as we're coming into the space, introducing them to the space, and being the first, because I'm the first person everybody sees when they walk into the theater. And so just having that point of contact with me just was like, let's just make you box office and company manager, and then you can manage these people and making sure they are safe and comfortable, and then they get what they need out of being at Lakewood Playhouse. So
Wait.
it was a recent transition into that role, actually.
So when
Yeah.
somebody comes in and asks for their bowl of like red M&Ms only, that's
Yeah,
you.
that's me. That's me. A water bottle. I got you. Let me go grab one.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk a little bit about Almost Maine. So that's on stage at Tacoma Little Theater right now. It's a cast of four,
Yes.
and you are woman number two, I
Yes.
believe. But that doesn't go anywhere close to explaining what you do. So for anybody, for those who haven't seen it yet, first of all, I recommend. I saw it on opening night last Friday. It was just it's a love story. It's a story of humanity, because everywhere you are, whether it's in a town that doesn't even exist or any town across the country, there's always these relationships and stories of love and all of that going on. So, but cast of four, there's I think 11 little vignettes. So you're playing, how many characters do you play?
I play five. On opening weekend, I only played four, because there is a dual scene, which is scene five. But usually, so this upcoming weekend, I'll play five characters. But last weekend, I only got to play four.
I did
But
notice that in the cast photos, I saw
yeah.
in that scene I think that you're talking about. I'm not going to give anything away, but the male characters, actors played in that scene, but I guess the female actors play
Yes.
in it in other shows, right?
Yeah, we alternate weekends. So opening
Okay.
weekend was the two men in their scene, and then this weekend will be me and Rachel in our scene, and they will get a little break from playing that scene. And then closing weekend will be two and two. So we'll each get an opportunity on closing weekend to
Oh,
show
great.
off that scene.
It is
But
it
yeah,
is
I
it
played
is a
five.
good one. Yeah.
It is. Yes.
But
Yes.
playing so many characters and so many different kinds of characters, because there's a lot of tender moments in the show, but there's a lot of kind of angry and heated moments in the show. It's just it's a show about, the humanness of our relationships. How do you bounce back and forth between these different characters?
It is quite difficult. It's especially a transition between A Doll's House Part 2, where I was on for 30 minutes, to this show where I'm going so back and forth, and it's whiplashy in a way. And I think for me, it's just setting the circumstances before I enter the scene and like reminding myself, like, I'm walking into a bar or I'm walking into this like new place. And like as soon as I enter the scene, like that's where I am. But I also think like giving myself a physicality for each of these characters to like rely on, because like remembering that if this character is nervous or like has a really dark backstory or is like really upset, like a couple scenes you got to see, it's like reminding myself like what does that physicality look like and what does that feel like, and that helps in the transition between character to character, in my opinion. But yeah, it is quite a challenge.
Yeah, and there's wardrobe changes along with it because
Yes.
you
Yeah.
play 5 characters and they're different stories and they all take place at the exact same time on a,
Yeah.
I think, a Friday evening at, I forget which exact time
It's
of
like
night,
it's
but
like 8:50 to 9 p.m. Like it's
yeah,
a specific time that he wrote. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And the question I had, and each of them then are the exact same length of time, each of the little stories?
They're supposed to be. Of course, there's just certain scenes that like John Cariani really wanted extra dialogue in to like build extra character. So they're supposed to be 10 minutes long each, but there is some scenes that feel a lot longer than others. And I think that is due to like certain characters or the way the scene moves. So like for me, my first scene that I enter in scene 2 as Sandrine feels very short, and my last scene as Rhonda feels very long. So it's like I do think there's a little bit of like wiggle room in the timing, but 10 minutes is what's supposed to be.
So how does is this your first play that you've worked in with like this huge video screen behind you like they have at TLT?
Yes, it was nuts. They put it up and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool. This is the coolest thing." This is the first time I've ever been on stage with an LED wall, and it is the most magnificent thing watching Blake York like play with little things and like place things on the screen at different moments, and it is so creative and so mind-blowing when you see the Northern Lights. It's like, "Oh, this is like talent. Like this is a passion." And came from a theater originally that did have an LED wall, but I never got to perform with it. And I was like, that would be so cool. And then I got to TLT and they let me, and I was like, this is cool.
Yeah, it gives them so much flexibility. I've seen shows because you can break it apart and put, I've seen where they've had it behind a window so you can see outside, or I think when they did Murder on the Orient Express, it was kind of the horizon. But this is the first one I've seen where it's all used.
Me too. Me too. Which I thought was super clever in the ways that it needed to be used, especially with how fast everything goes. So, like, big sets wouldn't work for such a small cast and such a
Yeah.
small, intimate space. But, like, having these benches and then just like the world behind us is really clever, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
I like
yeah, and it's easy on a show like this where you have these short little vignettes and then you have a change. If the change is long, it could really throw off the flow and the
right.
pace of the show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we really worked those transitions were, like, really concerning because we do have those costume changes while we're also moving set pieces, so it's like, go, 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 and you can never miss a beat or, like, the show will start, like, losing its flow in a way. But yeah, 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 I think we've nailed it. I think we've got it.
So in the audition process, is this a show that you um had seen come up on audition list and went for it? Is it just something that you auditioned for offhand? How did that happen?
Yeah, I was so the audition process happened as I was doing A Doll's House Part 2, and it was like well, it was like Rent somewhere, and then it was like Almost Maine, and then I was like, "Okay, maybe I'll do it, I don't know." But I was like, "I feel like I should audition for it just because if I don't, I'll regret it." So I prepared my 2 contrasting monologues. I was super nervous because those having I haven't done a audition here yet that required 2 contrasting monologues. They either required, like, a song and a monologue or, like, "Here, just read from the script," and, like, that's what a lot of people love doing here, which I love, a good cold read. So it was kind of, like, sudden. I was like, "Okay, I'll audition, I'll do it, and I will see if anything comes from it." I already did a show once here, I feel good. I'm new, it's fine if I don't get in. Um, and then I auditioned, and then the next day I got called back, and I was like, "Oh, okay. I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of people there. Like, I have a feeling I'm gonna walk in, it's gonna be a group of 30 people." Um, and then I walked in, and there were 6 of them for 4 characters. And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not staying." Like I'm gonna go, and like everyone here will stay and I'll go. It's fine. And it was so wonderful. That callback, I talk about it to this day. It was so, it's one of the best ones I've ever done. It was, everyone got to work individually and like find these characters and find the honesty. And like, I was like, this is just the callback. We're not doing it. Like, what's happening? Like, and just watching the talent in the space and people I didn't know and I've never seen on the TLT stage and I haven't seen since I've been here. I was like, this is wonderful. Um, I talked to Josh, who plays my counterpart in the show, quite often. He's in like 3 of my 5 scenes. And I was like, in that initial callback we read, and I was like, wow, this would be so fun with him. And then we got the role, and I was like, this is so exciting. But yeah, it was definitely an amazing process. And Rick was so specific in the what he was looking for that it made our job so easy and it made it so breathable and so enjoyable, and it wasn't anything crazy. And
And that's Rick
that's,
Homer, the director, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, Rick is my favorite. He's astounding. And he really pulled these people together. I was like, this is a beautiful cast of people, and I've been amazed by them as we continue working and building this show. But yeah, yeah, it was great. It was a great process, and it was
Was
definitely
it
something.
was it collaborative building these characters out? I mean, a small cast, I think it can tend to be a little more collaborative than if you have a large cast, because then that would become chaotic, right?
Right, yeah, it was definitely collaborative. It was definitely like, we would have moments where I was like, I don't know, especially like things like, not giving too much away, but like a couple combat things that happen with like ironing boards. Um, there's a couple moments that was super collaborative, us talking through those moments and us talking through these characters together and being like, I feel like my character's doing this. And they're like, yeah, I feel that too, but also my character feels like this. And like it was super like conversational, and the way we spoke to each other was like making an understanding of how each of these characters were feeling in the moment. And it was really like really enjoyable. Every day I'd go in and be like, I thought about this new thing last night about our characters. Like, let's talk about it. And it was just super good. And Rick would be like, yeah, let's this and this, and just kept really concise in the way that the script needed to. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You don't always associate stage combat with ironing boards,
Yeah,
but
not always.
but but it worked. It worked.
It worked.
I'll leave it at that.
Come
um,
see it if you want to find
yes,
out.
yes, definitely go see it. So what's next for you? I see that you were sound designer on the nice. Is it the Niceties at Lakewood Playhouse?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, I'm sound designing the niceties. I'm in the off the shelf reading that's happening on Thursday, May 2nd, for Ella Mossoneri. That's directed by Susie Wilhoft. So I have that coming up. I don't know when this gets released, but that's coming up this week in my time. And yeah, and then sound design for the niceties. And then just helping Lakewood Playhouse be in preparations for next season and keeping busy on that end of things.
Yeah, we're working on the lining up a get to know a theater with the artistic director over at
Yes.
at Lakewood. So hopefully we'll have that scheduled the next couple of weeks.
It's funny
Um,
because I told him, I was like, I have a great interview with Greg Hellman. He was like, he emailed me too. I said, oh, good. Oh, good. He's great. He's wonderful. And your reviews are wonderful, by the way. I have to compliment you.
oh,
You
thank you.
wrote a review on The Giver and talked about the sound design that I did on that. And I was like, that was really nice. Like, and it made me feel really good because that show was quite hard. So thank you for that. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. Well, one of the things I think when a lot of reviews don't call out some of the behind the scenes people, and I mean, I've only acted and very little from like 2016 on, so kind of late coming to it. But I really appreciated all of those jobs that are lighting design, sound design, costume design, and they how they can impact the show, because when they're done right, it makes a show that much better. And
Right.
then when they're not done right, if a phone doesn't ring and somebody picks up the phone, or the phone rings and people are looking at, things
Yeah.
like that, then it
It
can
adds
go
on a,
really off the rails.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, love that.
So, but thank you. But any acting play? You have the off the shelf reading coming up.
So
Any other auditions you've got your eyes on for next season?
I'm auditioning. Actually, after this interview, I have an audition for One Man, Two Governors at TLT, which is very exciting. I'm hopefully going to be looking forward to that audition tonight. We'll see how that goes. I know Brett Carr is directing that, and that's the first of their season. And then I'm just catching a lot of theater lately. I love seeing it and supporting local and making sure that all theaters feel supported in this amazing community that is built in Tacoma, Lakewood, Olympia, and then some. You know,
Yeah,
it's really great.
I'm impressed with, and I think with all due respect to theaters around Kitsap, which is where I'm based out of. When I look at the how the theaters support each other in Tacoma, TMP, TLT, Lakewood, they're posting on social media, on opening nights, they're posting each other's auditions, all those sorts of things is really great because it lifts everybody up.
Yeah.
I think more communities could learn something from that. It's not a competition, Um,
Oh,
I
no.
think a lot of people think
Collaborative.
it is.
Yeah. It is really beautiful, like, being able to, like, open the program of Almost Maine and seeing, like, "Thank you to TMP," and then, like, "Here, come see the niceties at Lakewood Playhouse," and, like, seeing these, like, really ways of supporting each other and uplifting each other, and it also helps, like, when an actor like me wants to do shows, like, at TLT and at Lakewood Playhouse and at TMP, like, I feel supported to do so because all these theaters are working collaboratively to like uplift the workers and uplift the artists and uplift the people who create all together, and it is really fun. And like being on the side that I am at Lakewood Playhouse, I really get to view that, and it's really enjoyable to see the way that we get to just collaborate as theaters.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Personally, do you prefer? I've seen you in two plays. How do
Yes.
you feel about plays versus musicals? Do you have a preference? Do you like them both the same?
I have a preference to plays. I acting is definitely my forefront. I love acting. And not that you don't act in musicals, but there is definitely something more vulnerable about singing on a stage than
Mm.
there is acting on a stage. Singing is something I really enjoy doing, and I don't know if I'm quite where I want to be in my voice. But I do feel comfortable going into audition saying, "I'm going to sing now. Like, here's what I'll do. If you don't cast me, it's okay because I know singing is not my thing." But I do love a good musical. I love like I'm eyeing some musicals for next seasons and things like that. So, and I just did a couple auditions in the bigger ones, the taller ones, Seattle and things like that, which was very intimidating but very enjoyable. Um and yeah, I think plays. I want to stick to plays for a while, and it's what I've been doing for a very long time, a lot longer than musicals.
Well, there's
Yeah.
a question for you. You're talking about auditioning in Seattle. I think
Yeah.
that's probably intimidating for a lot of people. Um, I guess what was that experience like, and is it something you recommend, even if it just to improve yourself as because I always hear in the job market, always interview, always keep interviewing because you keep your interview skills up, and it sounds like the same thing for audition. Is that what your experience is?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I made a goal myself for 2024 to audition for everything, no matter what. Even if I like know I can't do it, like just letting them know like, "Hey, I have conflicts, but I'm really interested in like your theater and I'm really interested in the work you guys do, so I'd like to put myself in the hat to be drawn out." And a good professor told me one day, he's like, "Get in their yes pile before like saying no to anything, like get into their yes pile. Just like go to put your face in there and just say, I enjoy this work. Let me work with you." I Fifth Ave because I auditioned for Fifth Ave just recently, and it was just an open call, but everyone was so lovely. Everyone was so nice. It's really intimidating because you're like right next to their building and you're going into like walking the streets of Seattle. And I was like, oh, I'm not in Tacoma anymore. Oh no. But they were so lovely and they were so nice and they were so understanding. And it, for a young actor like me, it feels a little jarring and it feels like, oh, am I going to be able to do this, or am I even going to get anything? Is this going to be worth my time? And in the long run, it was so worth my time just being there and like knowing their names and like meeting them and seeing their space and seeing how it all works. Because that way, if someone asks me in the near future, hey, what was your audition like at Fifth Ave, I'll say, this is what it was like. Here's an educational experience that I got to have, I got to learn, and now I can teach others too.
Mhm.
And so it is so worth it. Audition for everything because you never know. You never know
Yeah,
what'll come out.
yeah, and
I
and
didn't
the
want to Almost Maine, honestly, and now here I am. So
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you mentioned the yes pile, because just because you audition doesn't mean you're committed to a show. If they take you, perhaps you can't, but the experience has to be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there's a couple theaters I was like, I just don't know if they would like me, but I was like, I'll go. I'll go anyways. I'll just take the time and I'll go. And it takes 10 minutes to go into audition room and impress somebody. And then all you have to do is leave and get yourself a little treat afterwards because you did something, you know? That's my
Right.
goal every time.
So do you have a favorite play, favorite musical?
Oh my goodness. I think my favorite play ever. Oof, that's really hard. Um, oh no. Suddenly I can't remember any plays I love. No, I love certain playwrights. I'll go with that. I'll go
Okay,
playwrights.
that
Like
works.
Samuel Beckett is someone I really enjoy. Tennessee Williams is someone I really enjoy. Um, I really enjoy Sarah Rule. There's a play actually called A Feminine Ending that I really, really like. It's about a young artist, like such as myself. And I really connect to that play. I'm really liking Lee Blessing's Ellen Mossonary. I was shocked how much I would love it because sometimes I get scared about um, men writing young women. And he writes it very beautifully. So gorgeous. I cry every time I read it. It is so heart wrenching and heart pulling, and it's beautiful. But I think things like that. And then musicals, I love Hades Town. I love Mamma Mia. I love like just the ones that make you feel something. Falsettos is one I
Mm,
really, really love.
yeah.
But yeah, I love all. I love theater. I really, really do.
Well,
It's all
that's clear. I mean, it's clear from speaking to you here. It's clear when we watch you on stage. Definitely, you have an enthusiasm, and one thing I can appreciate is the emotion that you don't hold back. And no, the four people in your cast for Almost Maine, to a person, left nothing, behind. Everything's out on stage. When you're angry, you're angry. When you're, falling in love, you're falling in love. I mean, it's very believable, and I really appreciate that, because
thank
especially
you.
with anger, some people just hold back sometimes because they're afraid to do that. But I appreciate all that you guys have done in that show.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's quite vulnerable, so I'm proud of us. It is really secret to be up there and doing that with just one other person. Sometimes it's easier when you have another person up there to like jump onto, but just the two people, it is quite vulnerable for all of us. So thank you. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate
So
that.
Brooklyn, to keep up with you, you've got a website, brooklynepeterson.com. Uh,
Do.
I assume also social media.
Yes, yeah, I'm Brookelyne Peterson everywhere. All same spelling. Brooklyne is spelled Brookelyne. That's the thing that always throws people off. So,
It also makes it unique, though. So
yes.
when you easy to get the URL or the at on Facebook or Instagram or whichever.
Yes, on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those things.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, Brooklyn, thanks so much for taking the time. Once again,
Ooh.
I recommend everybody go out to see Almost Maine. It is a really good show. It's not long. It moves really quickly, and it's really enjoyable. You get all the feels and all the emotions and all of that. So thank you again, Brooklyn.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. I'm so glad I got to do this.
And for everybody watching out there, thank you once again for joining me behind the curtain. I'm Greg Heilman with the Sound on Stage. And until next time, I'll see you at the stage door.